Hello. God, it's great to be back. 3 years. 3 long years. Oh my God. Hopefully the jet lag doesn't kick in halfway through this panel. So it's great to be back in Singapore. And I think thanks Rachel for that opening salvo about the state of play right now. I think this panel is going to encapsulate quite a lot of that discussion and that sort of progress, should I say, and sort of building for the new decade. I'll just let the panelists introduce themselves first before we jump into the discussion. We'll start with you, Belinda.
Hello, I am Belinda Scott. My background is in professional services marketing, and I'm the Regional Marketing Director for Unispace. Unispace is in the office sector. We design and build offices and workplaces, life sciences labs, and other commercial spaces. And we also help executives navigate through the crazy, return to work dilemma, return to office dilemma, and how they get more value out of their commercial real estate.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, I'm Paulina Klemenko, Chief Growth Officer at PubMatic. I lead the strategic partnerships and business development, lead our corporate development and M&A efforts, and also are responsible for high growth initiatives like mobile app and CTV OTT. So really great to be here. Thank you for having me. So a few words about PubMatic. We're an independent technology company that builds and innovates to deliver advertising supply chain of the future. And we do that by building solutions, technology solutions for our premium publishers and app developers that help them grow their advertising business and also enable our marketers to reach addressable audiences at scale across platforms and devices. So really excited about the conversation today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rose Haskey. I'm the Chief Client Officer for Wavemaker. We're part of the Group M agency, WPP, if anyone doesn't know. So my role in Asia Pacific is really to work with the C-suites of our global and regional client to go through this whole transformation that we're all going to be talking about today. So I think for me, a lot of these topics, and especially this panel today, would be very relevant because this is my life I live with each and every day. So anyways, I'm really excited to be here, so thank you very much.
Excellent. I'm John McNerney. I'm with Yahoo, platforms for APAC. I've been with the business for about 14 years. A little bit about Yahoo. Most of you should know it. It's a media solutions company now. Yes, we are a search, and yes, we do have content, but we actually have a lot of ad technology. So we do a lot of consultancy, education in the industry, and provide basically access to first-party content and data, which is about 900 million users across the world. So I manage the strategy behind the platforms, so that's buy-side and sell-side, across all of Asia Pacific. Thanks.
Excellent. So it's interesting to frame this panel because some of you will be sitting in the audience and go, "What isn't marketing all about funnel attribution?" Well, it was, and it still is, but for the last 10 years, if not more, we have been addicted to the Google crack, if you will, of last click attribution. I didn't want to raise Google. Here we are, 5 minutes in, and I started in, but last click attribution has become sort of the go-to for the industry, bottom of the funnel. And now we're sort of moving back into this world where no cookies, no IDs, and we have to rethink the whole process. I think this is probably the most exciting time to be in the industry because what we're doing is taking the traditional marketing full funnel and applying a data-driven aspect to it, which means that we're going to be able to actually deliver better outcomes probably for our marketers and buyers. So I want to start with the sort of agency brand side first. I'll start with you, Rose, first about this. Are you see this new era? Is it reflective of the current state of things in the industry in terms of how no cookies, no IDs? We're rethinking how that data-driven aspect works and frame it into the traditional way that we should be doing marketing.
Thanks. Yes, thanks. No problem. So I think let's just step back for a second. It's the reason why can we talk about the full funnel marketing advertising? It's a framework, right? And it's fundamental and it hasn't changed. The reason why I see from our industry, from the media industry, why we focus so much in the lower funnel, because it's easy to explain to depot management. It's actually exciting. It's very easy to talk about last click. It's easy to talk about, leads. It's easy to talk about the item in the basket. And my view is that market has been obsessed with that, and every brief is all about the lower funnel. I think and a lot to do with COVID. It has really accelerated. If I look across the business, every single campaign, and I did a little bit of research with my team, is all on lower funnel. One of the reasons why now that we're starting to flip it in its head is because of the whole ecosystem of data. And yeah, I think for me it's critical. So I'll give you an example right now. We have a global client that has came to me and said by the end of 2023, a very large global CPC client said to me that by 2023, we have to have 30% of our media plan using first-party data. That is pretty aggressive, right? Compared to, oh my God, 18 months ago, what the hell is this, what we're going to do, to now saying, let's do test and learn. So we are moving into that space, and we're moving some brands moving quite aggressively into that space.
Belinda, you sat and you were bemused by our call going, well, isn't that what I do on a day-to-day basis anyway? So the art of brand building, brand equity building is now key part of what we're doing, like in ad tech, which is hilarious after 10 years, that we're back to where we started for the very start of the innovation cycle of 12 years ago. So your perspective on this is like you've always been building brand equity, and how important is that even more at the brands today?
Yeah, well, in professional services at least, full funnel marketing never went out of style. It's top of funnel probably is more important for us, top and middle, than conversion, the end of funnel. For us, we have big sales teams, and we do a lead handover at some point, and it's their job to close. So in our industry, we're relationship based. So the audiences that we talk to are CEOs, CFOs, COOs, business owners, and the business decisions that we're asking them to make are, in the lower millions up to $100 million decisions. So we have to build that relationship over the full sales cycle, and that can go from anywhere from 8 months for us up to 3 to 4 years of a sales cycle. So that building, yes, awareness, but more so trust during the whole funnel is essentially the job of marketing in professional services industry.
Let's take the ad tech point of view, because it's interesting that we've moved this way, Paulina, because we let's be honest, we as an industry did start at the lower funnel. Like the successes we've had, even programmatic has predominantly been about lower funnel, cookie matching, outcomes. How do you, from your perspective, how is a business like programmatic sort of progressing the way you think about the full funnel? Because you're kind of doing a lot of cross of the funnel. You've done bottom funnel, but like you're doing top of the funnel now with CTV and TV. So give us your perspective of how you as a company have moved that way.
Yeah, so it's interesting to listen to the other two panelists, because I definitely traditionally we delivered most value kind of the lower top of the funnel, oriented towards performance marketers. But recently we see a lot of brand building budgets coming through our platform in the form of CTV and premium video, which are the formats that sort of lend themselves the most to brand building. Right, and CTV is the fastest growing format on our across our platform, growing over 100% year on year. And I think like what's sort of happening is kind of a shift in the consumer behaviors and sort of a explosive growth in OTT viewing, and the shift from kind of a fixed priced cable subscriptions to streaming services kind of caused a sort of explosion of OTT inventory on our platform. And we also see that buyers are kind of increasingly looking to innovate their kind of a traditional TV buying by sort of injecting more data, enriching their buys, and turning kind of to CTV to deliver those incremental audiences. that they can no longer reach through their sort of linear buys. So all of these kind of factors, I think, are contributing to this, growth in CTV or addressable TV, if you will. And it is, very much kind of about brand building.
John, I know Yahoo have been pushing this for years and years and years. Your mantra to the agencies is, why do you spend so much money on Meta and Google? Spend more money with us. We've got great brands. We're Yahoo. We invented the portal. We used to have email.
Keep going.
So I mean, I'm joking. Obviously, I'm a big Yahoo bull. Obviously, but you guys have been pushing that narrative for a long, long time. Because even before all this kind of, do you think we're at this sort of precipice now, or where the agencies who have spent a lot of money at the lower funnel are recognizing that they have to look across this whole omnichannel piece?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really been exacerbated, particularly with the kind of influence on what the wastage is at the moment, with all the silos going on, with multiple platforms and with cookies and the last click type of approach that, particularly Asia's been addicted to. They're starting to really understand that by using multiple platforms, there's huge fragmentation. There's no ability to really understand that consumer journey. For us, yes, we are an old tech company, but we've consolidated all that technology, and we can actually understand that full consumer journey right from the start to the bottom. So that full funnel approach of understanding that brand equity and affinity and being able to get that awareness, as the panel was saying, right down to that path to purchase, part of the funnel. It's really important to be able to understand and how the marketer can actually engage with the consumer at each part of that funnel. So a lot of that comes through, which was brought up before about the data piece. Having that logged in user data to be able to understand what that consumer journey is doing. Like, COVID's been a bit of a petri dish, excuse the pun, but like, behaviors changed, right? So we absolutely, as marketers, needed to know what people were doing, what they were doing online, on what devices, behind any type of screen. So bringing that, even that offline audience online for that full funnel was absolutely imperative for the marketer.
And it's important to realize that first party data, we talked about it, right? How important is that in the context of making this work, right? So it's all well and good talking about full funnel, but we have to actually be able to connect, the lean back experience of CTV, right? The mid funnel, and then the outcomes at the end. So I want to talk about the first party piece, because it's really, really important. I mean, you were talking to me about how important, how you think that third party will affect your industry as a whole, and how important that first party thing is. And I don't want to go too much, because we're actually going to go into this later on, but how important is that in terms of bringing us all together, right? Like, how important is it for your industry to collect first party data?
Incredibly important, but it always has been. Our industry is always has been heavily reliant on first-party data. So for 20 years I've been marketing, it's always been the top of our priority lists, is building audience, getting full customer view of our audiences. And look, it's not perfect in every organisation I've worked at in professional services. It's been a high priority, but I think we would probably consider ourselves that we've got a long way to go. But sort of listening and researching this topic, I've realised we're actually in a much better place than a lot of other companies. So, our email marketing, for example, we get we average anywhere between 30% and 45% open rates. So we have a very engaged audience. It's a finite audience compared to a lot of other brands, but it will continue to be even more important moving forward in the future for us.
Paul, and you obviously work with a lot of publishers. How important are they in this equation? Because you talked about the ID management and because I reckon that most marketers will have some first party data, but they're going to have to work closely with the sell side to make this work as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to echo what Belinda was saying about the importance of the first-party data and kind of a publisher-defined audience segments. So what we see in this kind of a post-cookie world that we're moving towards, the value of third-party data is getting diminished, and it's kind of getting less sustainable and less relevant. And we see kind of a clear shift to the value of the first-party data. And I think also just speaking specifically about the kind of data activation, we also see kind of a shift to activate this data on the supply side versus a kind of traditional buy side through your DSP. And the reason for this is really kind of buyers are trying to get close to the customers. And customers and publishers are really kind of a sort of that nexus of where the data gets generated. So when you activate the data on the supply side, buyers see a lot of advantage in terms of scale and performance. It's kind of they're able to get to greater reach. They're able to eliminate hops and make the workflow more seamless. So that's where we've been sort of building and innovating towards those activations on the supply side.
Do you think there'll be closer relationships now more than ever between publishers and agencies and brands? Do you think that's going to get closer now that we have no sort of third-party proxy to kind of build a framework for measurement and targeting? You're going to get closer conversations going on between big publishers and brands. How do I make my campaigns work? Because at the end of the day, if you're going to run a lovely CTV campaign at the top of the funnel or a nice video campaign on a publisher site, it sort of has to connect with the whole marketing plan that you run. Sorry, there's another question for you there, Paulina. That was a follow-up for you. Sorry, yeah.
So I think you articulate very, very well. I think sort of brands want to be closer to publishers and want to work closer to the publishers, and agencies also kind of like looking at the ecosystem and kind of realizing that where the most value so the value where that they can get sits kind of really on the supply side, which is the reason why they choose to increasingly choosing to partner very, very closely with the supply side. And I'm looking at Rose here, and it's sort of interesting to think about this, right? So agencies are kind of under pressure, both kind of financially, operationally, organizationally. And so, and sort of, DSPs have been taking kind of disproportionate value being created by the agencies. And so now agencies are kind of turning to the, looking across the ecosystem and realizing that sort of the SSPs are probably the best partners for them to kind of realize that value that they're creating and kind of continue sort of creating that differentiation for themselves.
I think it's really important to understand right now, based on that even today, there's 40% of the online audience is unaddressable. So
that's a very good point.
And coming 24, if Google does it, it's going to be 70% unaddressable. So you've got all these different aspects.
Where's the other 30%?
In 24, currently it's 40.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to flip and it's going to become exponentially worse. So you've got all sorts of things where publishers are doing a really good job building those relationships, doing 2-click registrations to get signed on so that there's consent. But then you've got the flip side of, like the likes of Telegraph in the UK doing really well through subscriptions and things like that. So there's this fight for revenue, yes, but also the technology side does come to the party with the ability to do ID-less audience targeting as well. So yes, you've got contextual, but you can do other things like what is identity-less targeting, and that's things like Google Topics. They've got 300 categories. That's their API. Unfortunately, it's only on web, but it's very, very limited. We've got something called NextGen, which is patent technology using our deterministic data to actually be able to provide 3,000 audiences to be targeted for that unaddressable audience. So think 24, we've got almost 75% unaddressable audiences. That is actually a huge opportunity. CTVs are going to be a big one, right? We've got offline audiences in households. We mentioned measurement and audience data. That's ACR data. That's bringing those audiences into our digital sphere. We've got digital out of home already happening, bringing those into the funnel as well. So there are these non-cookieless based opportunities that is going to be significant, and that's where marketers have really started to upskill themselves and get educated. So we've seen a huge. It's been a bit of a inflection point for the world, whether it's you're talking climate change or advertising, right? Like we're looking at the positive side of what's happening right now in our industry.
Can I? Those are brilliant points, and we're going to explore that later on in the conferences, plenty of conferences. But that's a solid point. But can I just return to this point about? It was very interesting, Pauline. You kind of alluded to the fact that the DSPs and SSPs are fighting over sort of the agencies buy side and sell side converging a little bit, which is an interesting topic in itself. But it comes back to the point that Rose made a point on the call saying that. To me, saying that the consumer still matters. And the most overlooked, I'd say, profession in the agency was the planner buyer, right? They're always we're going to be usurped by an algorithm in one of the trade desks or MediaMath or DV360. But planning buying is like going to make a comeback. Like it's never made a comeback in the sense like it's Muhammad Ali, it's every comeback, it's Bill Clinton, it's all of those guys come in and women roll into one. But how important is that now more than ever, Rose? Because you're at the coalface. Fragmentation is insane. So that buying planning function has become even more important right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm not going to repeat what everyone's saying here. The reason why the whole entire planning process is so critical today is because the whole entire, ecosystems change. The fragmentation is beyond anything I've ever seen in my 20 plus years being in this industry. So for me is with the new technology that's available, the data that is available for us in the media agency, and the tools, the planning tools that we build within GroupM and Wavemaker is what's going to change the whole way we plan and buy across the whole funnel, right? Because complete transparency is we've been spending so much of our money and our time at the lower funnel. And now with the whole entire cookieless world coming through, is we have to look and plan across the whole entire journey. So that means that you've got to understand your consumer behavior and engage with them across platforms, across screen, and that can only be done with data, tech, and a planning planning tools. So for us, that's where we are spending a lot of our focus in the agency is building tools to able to follow the consumer along the whole entire journey. I think that's where we're spending our time. And I think just to add on to about the cookie list is that as our clients are now looking at test and learn. So for us, if you look at our client, we got CPG client is so far away from having first party data. It's like, if they do, it's so tiny, we don't even know what to do with that. Then you got hardcore performance client, but they've been doing that, but they own that. So we don't talk about, so for me, most of my time spent on the CPG client, right? So where we're doing the test and learn is we are trying to test whatever data they have, first-party data, try to find a single point of view on their consumer, and then working with publisher and try to use the publisher's first-party data to find more of those two people. So that's what I mean when I say test and learn. That's where we are today. I think it's a good time to do it anyways, because if you're not going to do it, to your point, by next year, if Google actually do what they say they're going to do, then we're ready to go. But that's where we are today in the agency.
Are you saying the agencies are actively looking at this problem or this issue? Because what I sense is that, to John's point, is that a lot of the people in Europe anyway and the US are over-indexing on Chrome because they can make it work. Are you saying that agencies are actively involved in rethinking this, or is there still quite a lot of the agency landscape that is just basically just easier to buy with Google and Meta and LinkedIn and whoever else is, got a full funnel?
No, I mean, I can only speak for GroupM. I can't speak for everyone else, right? And in GroupM, it is the investment we put behind the organization to put this as first and foremost, most important is extremely, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. We're accelerating. We have, we team within the group. We've got team within WPP, and we've got expert within group, within Wavemaker. This is our top priority because it's our client's top priority. We build our organization not based on what we want to do, it's based on what our clients' priorities are. So this is my role to sit with CEOs and CMOs and say, I hate using this word, but what keeps you up at night? If this is what it is, we're usually doing this 18 months ahead of our race. So this conversation has been happening 18 months ago. This is not something new for us today, but it's taken us 18 months to get here to get the test and learn. That's what I mean by that. We're testing and learn now, but we knew about this, a year and a half ago.
Does this affect you guys at all, Belinda, in terms of like how you build out your funnel? Because it is a critical part of the industry and has been, because we've kind of have we been indexing to the wrong metrics? That's probably that's a better question to be asking.
Yeah, look, in professional services marketing, we're not held accountable by, I think, the same metrics as consumer marketers. We're held accountable by audience growth and engagement. And yes, the performance marketing metrics do play a role, but we're not held to them because we're not expected to convert. For us, what the business looks to us for is our marketing activities to be a leading indicator for revenue. So, we in the current company I'm at, we do 2 key thought leadership campaigns a year, and then we see revenue follow that about 4, 6, 8 months later. So, that we contribute to the business objectives more so than typical marketing objectives.
Yeah, and you still use quite a lot of the big platforms, though. You use LinkedIn as an example from a B2B perspective. That's still going to be a critical part of your media plan going forward.
Yeah, correct. I think I said to you, LinkedIn is our TikTok. Yeah.
LinkedIn is the TikTok for B2B marketing, by the way. Lots of executives dancing around the place and singing stupid K-pop songs.
Not quite, no.
Okay. So if I go on there, there's no stream of you doing that, no?
Well, it's hidden somewhere, you might find that. But no, yes, we use the full suite of LinkedIn services, LinkedIn marketing services, obviously recruitment, but also on the sales side of things, I champion the Sales Navigator program for the sales enablement in our organisation. And yeah, we see a lot of benefit from that. And because it's a relationship business, it's our tool to nurture those relationships, manage client accounts globally, and we use it for a lot of client intel that you just can't get on any other platform in our industry.
Shifted to independent ad tech, and ad tech in general. How important is that now in bringing all this together, Paulina? Because you've made an interesting acquisition in the last couple of weeks called Martin, was that correct, in the US? And that's sort of adding to what you guys do on the top of the funnel. But how important is that in bringing all this together? Because, planning is becoming more important, and Martin has a very strong planning function. So talk about, how you see your role in this.
Yeah, so I want to maybe go back a little bit to what Rose was saying, because kind of how do you bring it all together? Obviously, sort of in the kind of post-cookie world, we need to figure out what are the mechanisms to sort of connect the dots across the consumer journey. So we spend a lot of sort of time thinking about what we call addressability, right? And addressability is really sort of how do we enrich the inventory we have with signals, additional signals and alternative signals to enable agencies and buyers to kind of better identify, better target users across the marketing funnel. And we sort of build and innovate with our agency clients around this concept of addressability. And there is no silver bullet, obviously, and sort of we kind of take a portfolio approach to it and kind of create solutions that combine the power of the first-party data, contextual data, and alternative identifiers. And these problems are really, really hard.
Very, very difficult. They are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. And so I guess and just to kind of give you an example of how complex these issues are, in identity management space, really, really important to connecting the dots. There are over 80 identity providers out there. So if you're an agency buyer or an advertiser, you're trying to figure out how to make sense of that. Who do you work with? Who do you not work with? How do you activate them all? And that's where I guess technology partners and independent ad tech comes in, because we sort of build solutions that help propagate those IDs across our supply chain and supply platform, and give buyers tools to kind of turn on those IDs and create like ramp-on, sort of on-ramp activation tools. So I would say that, it's never been more important for kind of to be sort of that technology provider as the industry continues to innovate and sort of recraft what the ecosystem looks like. And that's, I guess, another reason why we see sort of certain consolidation across kind of all the players, where agencies, buyers, and advertisers want to work with fewer partners and really consolidate their business relationships and go deeper, especially in the sort of environment of macroeconomic uncertainty. That's where you get efficiencies. That's where you take advantage of the innovation. That's where you get financial efficiencies. So that's kind of how we think about the world and how it will all come together.
John, you want to jump in there?
I think there's two key things to that. There's the players that will win and where the marketers are going to get the best result and get the best value is being interoperable on the buy side specifically, and transparent. So the walled gardens are already starting to be threatened, especially with the Facebooks, the Googles. We're seeing degradation of performance. We're seeing that on the buy side with independent buying platforms like Yahoo DSP and the Trade Desk and the rest. If they're interoperable and that they can ingest these hundreds of IDs, then there's a solution that can be had.
So you're saying because the walled gardens act in a silo, it's difficult for them to make sense of the fragmentation across the whole ecosystem.
Exactly. Going back to what Rose was saying, so agencies are definitely starting to understand the benefit of a single omnichannel DSP, because the point is that they can see that single view of the audience in one place. So if they are transparent and interoperable with all the IDs, so if an advertiser's got a CDP, they're uploading their CRM data. If a publisher's pumping in their own identifiers, it can be matched. It can work, and you can understand what that funnel journey looks like. We've started to see a shift now that a lot of the pub side and the buy side can actually do this. We're seeing the shift from that last click bottom of the funnel, performance-based stuff, to the branding. So originally it was around 80-20. We were seeing a lot of performance DR. Now we're starting to see a massive shift, almost 50-50 into branding.
Why is that?
That's because they can start to understand the full journey. So they're starting to put the brand dollars into the performance to feed the top of the funnel. And that's where you can't just keep pumping the same budgets on the same performance audience in Facebook. Like, it's degrading. It's a fact. And that's why a lot of these marketing budgets are starting to shift.
I still can't believe people advertise in Meta or Facebook. It's a pile of shit, hey, to be honest with you.
It's addictive.
It's a message board of racists and lunatics, like, you know what I mean? Let's be honest with you. Rose, on that point, by the way, I'm a fan of Google. Not Meta. Rose, do you think that's right? Are you seeing that yourself in terms of, like, there is way more value and brand? Like, let's be honest, you're right. If you're representing a brand, right, your whole thesis is to build brand equity and to sell more product, right? If you just exist at the bottom of the funnel, all you're doing is competing on price with other competitors, and there is no real brand equity being built.
Yeah, I agree with John, and I can't give you the percentage, but I know the percentage. I can give it to you. But the point is that brand needs to step back and build brand equity, but it's brand legacy. A lot of the brands are losing their legacy. It's because of the bottom funnel, because of all the money they're pumping into the performance side of it. So we are seeing big global brand now, and we're going through our annual planning, and it's actually the perfect time for me to share with you is that every annual planning I'm looking at has a full funnel planning approach. For the love of God, it's about time we started it, right? It's like, so it's nice to see that brands are starting to recognize and going, holy shit, if I don't listen to the agency, by next year, I'm not ready. I'm going to lose out on my competitors. So we've been just pounding, and that's my role. I just say the same thing over and over and over. And fine, the thing is, like, you have to say something 21 times before people remember. So it works. So yeah, I do agree with you.
I'll give you an example on that. Schroders here in Singapore during COVID came to us because they knew they were getting nowhere with their old strategy. So we did an innovation consult, really focused on what the brand was going to do. So they started doing, when lockdowns came out, digital out of home, right? To understand, really push out the non-for-profit type sustainable message that they wanted to get out. They brought those audiences online to then re-engage the exposed audiences on the streets and the malls, wherever they were, in taxis, and then re-engaging them on their phones and through content. And they saw literally a 35% uplift in visitation to this main message that they wanted to get to. That's one example. Amex, HSBC, they're all doing the same thing now. So a lot of them want to understand what this consumer journey is about.
All right, and on that note, we'll just wrap up. But I want to say that this is this was a difficult panel because we're bringing a lot together. It's kind of a microcosm of the current state, right? We've got a brand, we've got an agency, we have the execution layer that's helping us build this next generation of full funnel marketing. I want to thank our panelists for a fantastic discussion. Thank you very much, guys. It was really good.